So I found a nice little space in the library where
Hmm.
hopefully I won't be interrupted. So how are you?
Yeah, good. Good. I just had probably,
Um, yeah, that product.
yep. How are you finding
Yeah,
it?
um, that product quite amazing.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it, it was. I was sort of prompted to purchase it
Yeah.
because I originally dealt with all my, not all of it, but the large majority of my trauma
Yeah.
during lockdown, where I just started doing a lot of uh, calisthenics and yoga.
Hmm.
Um, and every time, not every time, but increasingly, as I started going in deep stretches, my whole body would be overwhelmed by past memories. And I'd be stuck in some places for like 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
Um, and fortunately, I'm nutty enough
It's not
to have kept
nutty at
going.
all. It's when you understand the science and what actually, the storage of light within your anatomy through the atomic
Mm,
systems, that's not
mm.
nutty. It's just that people don't understand it.
Well, so I didn't understand, so it was it got a bit hairy at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I basically said to my body, I said to my mind, I said, look, my body, my mind, let's get this working, all
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um, so I was almost copying something that Sadhguru might have said. I don't know. And then through that, and continue to do it, I started to be able to let go and to resolve a lot of those emotions. But it was something that you wrote the other day about the memory with the trauma attached.
Yeah.
So I can now, like if I was to speak about whatever trauma it was or has been, I'd start off calmly and start off calmly, and then but now it just, for the most part, it just doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Um, so what I found with your product, and I just got to the stage when there's a lot more stuff I've done, but I figured to myself, I said, look, I've got this far. I did it by myself.
Yeah.
Why don't you just check this out to see if it can help you to begin with, which it has. The other issue, Karen, is that I often, not like every day, but often enough, I have people come into my life who, have come from, very difficult and traumatic backgrounds, childhood backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they could be in their 20s, 30s, 60s, 70s, but the trauma is still alive in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and, that's well, it's like how I came to find Christ was a few years ago. I'd be, on a phone doing a business call,
Yeah.
and the person would start talking the gospel. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I'm going to listen this time. And it's a similar sort of thing that's happening here.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, it continues to happen. They speak to me and they're talking about, something wrong with them, or, it happened years ago. It's not that important. Yet they're acting it out, and the trauma is still alive.
Mm.
And I, and I come along and saying, well, you know, this is some of the stuff I've been through, but it's not all in your head; it's in your body. Yeah. And that's partly why I sent you that diagram of the nervous system,
Yeah. Yeah.
because once I'd gone through my, stuff, that's when I came across some literature like your somatic experiencing, your fight, flight, freeze response,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that stuff, which I can relate to because I said, yeah, I went through that, didn't think of that, whatever.
Yeah.
But now with yourself is, as I'm rubbing it in, you know, some things are just coming up and I've completely forgotten about. Not all of them are,
Yeah.
not all of them are nasty things. Not
No.
all of them are nasty things at
Uh,
all. I mean, some
It,
of them are
it
absolutely.
allows
Some
memory
very
to
cool,
be
but not
recalled.
all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the technology
Yeah.
unlocks light within atoms.
And it's
So it
okay.
releases the stored memory of light within the structure of atoms in the body, in the mind. And
Right.
and so there's this really kind of elegant system of hydrogen being this element that can be both materialistic perspectively and also photons of light. And so it crosses between that boundary, and that boundary really is through the geometry of a cross. And so there's an atomic
Right.
geometry of a cross operating, which allows you to see light within the structure of atoms. And when you see that structurally operating, it's when it's kind of coming back out of the atom and decaying. And that's the actual vision that we're seeing, is in a time reversal process.
Right.
And so we've kind of stored light during the daytime, and at nighttime that light comes back out as dreams. And so it's an isotope physics mediated atomic light memory system, and it's built on time reversal symmetry on isotope decay times, half-lives. And so this whole kind of memory recall, photon light recall, is all balanced based on that kind of storage of hydrogen in an atom and then the release of that hydrogen back out of the atom. And it is a really kind of a beautiful way that our biology actually just operates in the unconscious part of our mind outside of the neuron. So it's all external to the conscious part of the mind. And so it's using a delay, and that delay is what's required in order for the conscious mind to get that kind of knitted experience of reality. There's a lot of kind of science to it, but it really kind of, there's these three layers within the structure of a hydrogen atom. The first layer of that orbital structure provides UV light, and the second layer provides visible light, and the third layer provides infrared light. And the spectrum of light that we see, the visible region, is between UV and infrared. So it's really kind of just corresponding to how light operates within the structure of an atom, within the structure of a hydrogen atom. And so I've kind of developed I guess, a westernized model, but applied to more of a single atom physics system that's operating coordinated to our neurotransmitters. So inside of the ring system of the neurotransmitter, one atom is housed in there. And then in dopamine, the structure of dopamine has an amine with an NH3 plus, and it delivers the hydrogen into that one atom to make the unstable atom or the isotope. And then that's decaying to release the light back out again. And so there's this kind of like a trampoline, and you bounce down and then bounce back up. It's got a delay between the down and the up. And so our deja vu experiences come from seeing the light come in and then come back out again. We're typically just watching the light coming back out at us from the atomics of these isotopes. And so as you kind of experience life, this light storage system grows your atoms, and they get to the stage where that information could be holding pleasant experiences or traumatic experiences. And so the technology I've developed is putting hydroxyl groups on the rings, and it opens the rings up to release the light. So it enables memory recall, past memories or traumatic memories from PTSD to be broken and released in order to release the trauma at an atomic level within the body.
Well, I mean, then it's because they've got that newer term, cPTSD, meaning complex PTSD or childhood PTSD. So that's the whole term what that refers to.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm coming from as well.
So I had to walk through my own journey in order to understand the science. mine was a very kind of mum committed suicide when I was 11, and I kind of blocked that part of my life out for 31 years, and then all of a sudden this product that I was making broke open the ring and released all that energy at once. It was like shaking up the wine bottle and just popping the cork and everything coming out. It was like, I had no way of controlling it, right? So it was way too much for everybody around me. But
how long did that last for?
Look, several months, and only needing to sleep for a couple of hours a night and be completely kind of energized and healed and regenerated. And it was just like this energy was phenomenal. And I had to kind of figure out where it kind of came from. And so it's been 10 years now, really, of integrating that experience into a new kind of scientific understanding of how the physics of light operates in the unconscious part of the mind. And we can kind of understand that the retina point inward, and we see our dreams at night with our eyes closed. So the whole kind of light-based system is actually a little bit weird because it has this time reversal process operating in it in order to allow conscious experience of reality. But when you kind of break it down sequentially, one step at a time, then it's not so confusing, hopefully, for people. So it allows a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on.
Well, it does. And I guess that's, what you're saying about, how it's the light's, I guess, released. Those memories are sort of slowly, just gradually, going down. Because as those memories come up, they're nowhere near as intense as they might have been. I've had a lot of practice of doing this, so I recognize what's happening pretty quickly. But my whole nervous system hasn't been taken over or hijacked, and I'm not in that ranty McVille or whatever.
No, you will get more centered in your being. And more stable at that central point, so you're not being taken to the extremes of negative or positive, and you get more balance and more kind of strength in that foundation. And
like I said, from that perspective, it's brilliant. I almost feel like I'm cheating because I didn't have to go and do 100 hours of exercises to get to the same place and sit through all
that. well, you are doing your work, right? You've come through a hell of a lot anyway to get to this point, to actually be in a position to go, oh, maybe I should try this. Maybe it has got some benefit to it. So, if I speak openly to people, they typically don't understand what I'm saying because they haven't actually gone on their own inward journey. And it's only people who are really ready to receive this kind of different way of looking at the world, a different perspective, that allows them to kind of go, oh, I won't look through that lens. I'll look through this lens, this central point of balance, and see a mirrored symmetry. And then you can kind of understand in that mirrored state, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So there's a balance of opposites playing out. And that is really the dualistic perspective, but it's all through a time reversal symmetry isotope decay system that's operating. And so kind of this underpinning reality that's being created is partly because of the storage of the knowledge, and everything that you've witnessed has kind of created the mind in the way that it is. So your experiences in life as childhood, and if it's been traumatic, then in a sense that's programmed the mind to expect and to kind of hold you in that framework, right? And so the way you kind of have to break that down in order to release it, in order to get free of that traumatic kind of framework and tune back to a point of balance and actually connection. So it's a perplexing product because it operates not at a receptor mediated level. It's operating at an atomic physics, isotope physics level in the being. And it really works. Most people can't feel it because they're not in tune with their emotional being. Because
Right.
that single atom coordinates to the water and changes water structure as well. So depending on what that atom is, what that isotope is, its timing and release will be different, and amount of energy released is different.
Okay, so how come I can feel it and sense it very easily, but you're saying other people don't? So what, are they not ready to receive these messages yet, or are they still stuck? How would you explain that to me?
Well, if I was a scientist grounded in reductionistic materialism, I had to be essentially slapped in the face and shown this internal vision in order for me to reorientate and understand my retina point inward, and what I'm witnessing is within the mind. Most people are, I guess, fixated on the external materialistic world perspective and don't understand that they're looking within themselves through that time reversal process. So it's kind of like we've been taught a way of looking at the world through science, which is actually not aligned with how the mind actually works. And so you kind of have to turn everything 180 in order to then get aligned with how your actual physics within the body is actually operating. And
Right.
you've been doing yoga, right? So you're on a trajectory not to be looking externally. You're doing meditation, you're looking within. So you're in that kind of alignment anyway. So you're able to kind of feel, and you develop the skills, right? It's not like something that you do first time and you know what to do. It's a way of looking at the world through your lens, and the lens isn't with the eye, the lens is with the mind, and it becomes an atomic connection rather than a biological connection. And as soon as you kind of build a framework of knowledge that's founded in the atomics of light within the mind, then your perception of the external physical is changed into an atomic light. So you kind of shift your perception from this external atomic inner geometry of light within the structure of atoms. And that's more of the alignment into actually how your biology is operating. So you sense and you feel, and you're connected more to an understanding of how your biology is working through hydrogen rather than through carbon. So it's a different way of exploring the anatomy of the human being through how hydrogen works in the body.
Okay, but I guess that as you're talking about your science model, in some ways you yourself are sounding like a yogi. In the sense of, getting to the cellular side, getting to the smallest, and you can keep going small and small if you want, but that's also part of the idea. So you've somehow managed to bring explanations. But,
so I navigate hydrogen in my biology, which allows me to see the time reversal symmetry and isotope physics. It allows me to see the biochemistry of hydrogen through how energy is formed in the mitochondria from that proton gradient, and how then the water is created from binding oxygen and hydrogen together and generating ATP. So when you understand the kind of processes and you can witness them using your imagination, you can see the events that are happening within you. So I've built a scientific framework using inversion. So I take the smallest thing of the Planck scale in physics, which is 1.6 e to the negative 35 of a meter. 1 over that is the largest thing, 6.25 e plus 34 meters. And so there's this balance of opposite in this mirrored symmetry process that takes the smallest thing to make the largest. And it's those kind of relationships that allow you to take atoms, not having to use the large Hadron Collider, but actually invert them in their structure to make them large. And then to be able to understand the relationship of the speed of light and the relationship of the alpha particle emitted from a helium Bose-Einstein condensate and the inward trajectory of gravitational force at the square root speed of the outward force of dark energy. So understanding the models that you create are really a representation of a universe that is within you. So we have a way of exploring the universe, not by having to go out and measure, but by understanding the actual processes that are operating within us, which are, in a sense, a mirror of what the universe is, because we're looking in. So in a sense, we become an inward trajectory, and we understand the sphere singularity and how that can be used as the mirror to look back in time, back 13.8 billion years, to actually understand the geometry of the original sphere that was present within the universe. So the technology, in a sense, has allowed me to kind of build a different framework, a different way of looking at the universe. I don't think about the idea of a Big Bang. I have a supersymmetry inversion event. So I have 12 go out in helium per atom as an alpha particle, and then 4 go in to create dark matter and dark energy. And there's a mirrored symmetry in hydrogen, where you get 3 quarks on the inside as a proton and 1 electron on the outside. So a 3-in-1 ratio as well, but in the opposite kind of trajectory, 3 in the middle, 1 on the outside, and dark energy is 3 going out and 1 going in. And so these kind of mathematical relationships provide a foundation for the scientific model that I then use to understand the biological processes that are operating. So the current kind of materialistic reductionist perspective that science has created through measurement is missing positrons and atoms, and therefore it can't reconcile the atom view with the cosmological view. And as soon as you kind of correct it, you can kind of go back to the starting point and start again with a different kind of understanding of the logic that's operating in the universe, which is also the logic that's operating within you. So in a way, you kind of realign yourself to a different way of thinking. Rather than looking out, you're looking in, and it's scientifically credible based on looking at the foundations of atomic structure, not with just the reductionistic perspective of a neutron, a proton, and an electron. You actually have an electron, a positron, a neutron, and a proton in each atom, right? So you've kind of got a different geometry to begin with, and that allows you to kind of conceptualize what these other missing pieces of the puzzle are that science hasn't kind of got their heads around yet. So yeah, my own kind of experience really gave me the insight that no, I'm not looking out at all, I'm actually looking in, and then to have to reorientate everything accordingly as a consequence of that kind of initial experience. Yeah.
Okay, well, the bottom line, it works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it kind of comes down to. It's that stuff to science.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, it's
yeah, I know.
It isn't, because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about some of the people I referred to before who are, still struggling.
Yeah.
And, of the six or seven I've met in the last, and met just could be a brief encounter, but as met means, but most of them, I don't think are inward looking in this sense. In that, it's still too much. They're looking for an outside source.
Yeah.
or they disassociate from it all, or and all the
Well, it's
rest of it.
painful, right? It's incredibly
It
painful
is.
to have to go and deal with the trauma that you've experienced in childhood,
Mm.
and to let it go out, right? Most people are holding it, suppressing it, and it's only through
I
that.
tried for years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, 31 years of my life was suppressing it. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. And with that's a NaNos one, with the vitality one, and I haven't used that as much because I'm just. It's like when I messaged you. I was using the NaNos one before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
And with that damn light display, I couldn't go to sleep because I was too interested in what was going on in my head. So
Yeah.
I'll stop taking it before I go to sleep.
Yeah, with the vitality as well, if you want to go out dancing. So I that, for me, I like to dance to music, and that was kind of a way of me working through the embodied pain. Because when my mum died, I spent 6 months psoriatic arthritis in my hips and knees. So my body reacted in such a way from that loss that I couldn't walk. So it was like, if you think about the embodiment of pain, yeah, I understand what you're talking about. To get back up on your feet, you kind of have to push through it. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, are you making these available in different countries, or is it all going to be online, or how's this?
Well, trying to get it into the hands of many people, and trying to get distribution networks set up and that kind of thing. But it's it's incredibly challenging in this day and age to have something that's so kind of radically different from what kind of the mainstream of science finds acceptable, right? But
Well, I mean, it's completely unacceptable from a science perspective. I mean, you're not trying to numb people's pain. You're not trying to dope them out, and you're not
no,
saying
I'm
that.
trying to empower people to enable them to heal themselves. Yeah, that's frowned upon.
You've been asleep the last week.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Because I mean, I can certainly see the. I mean, I'm living proof. That's why I've been experimenting with myself. I found that rubbing it in was a lot better for me than the squirt. By the way, but I'm almost tempted with some of those people I meet just to carry the bottle and say, "Look, I'm going to spray this on, wait half an hour, see what happens."
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to kind of give you some samples to do that if you want to hand them out.
I think that is because it's also, as I said before, is that this keeps coming back to me. It's like, I'm getting cooler and cooler as the day goes by. But then through that, I'm meeting all these other people. I mean, I say all like I'm swamped. I'm not swamped. Maybe once every month or a couple of weeks. I was having a conversation with a friend just late last week, and his partner, his wife's, she comes from the ghettos in the States, and there's a whole generational trauma and blah, 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 which he struggles to understand. But like, some of that sounds familiar. It could be, more to do with this, this and this. So, maybe this is a way to sort of, for me to be doing whatever the hell I'm meant to be doing. I've got no idea what that is. Work it out soon enough.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think I'd need the samples, and I do appreciate that because I've got a big squirt bottle. That's why I got the 100 mils of each, because I was thinking to myself, well, if it works, start going around spraying on people.
Yeah, I had a fun conversation the other day with a couple of people about top dressing cities. But but
Oh my
maybe
goodness.
we'll start with the old mist sprays at dance parties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because with particularly with the adverse childhood or trauma in childhood or whatever you want to call it. I mean, we both mentioned a couple of things, but neither of us feels that need, I guess, anymore to going through that traditional thing where you have to explain everything that happened,
No,
or
no.
which can be, if you're still in that space, actually talking about it can just re-trigger the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's a thing where, like with myself, it's like, well, it doesn't affect me, and I'm a better person for having gone through it. So,
Yeah.
but because I've made it to most part to that other side, I'm kind of grateful for things that happened, which is all right. That's a bit trippy, but that's cool. I can handle that.
It's a definite
Uh,
learning process when you
mm,
can integrate that pain and turn it into something positive,
mm,
and useful out the other side. That is
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good fertile soil there. Yep.
yeah. With the actual product, I mean, do you have any suggestion there, or have you used any other practices alongside it? It's like, have you meditated with it, or yogaed with it, or dance, played music, or whatever? Or
Definitely danced with it. And just more energy, way more
mm,
energy to dance. And just deeper connection to the music. Um,
mm,
I I don't really have, I have I guess a more Catholic-y, Christian-y, spiritually kind of
mm,
scientific merging into this kind of technology. So I've looked at the
I just
scientific
lost you. Oh,
rationale
yeah.
from the perspective of um, there's a very kind of deep spiritual connection for me through Christology, understanding that atomic cross, the rearrangement of Einstein into c squared equals E divided by m, and the electric field and the magnetic field at right angles to each other. So I've kind of created a bridge between both a kind of Catholic dogmatic and a scientific dogmatic by shifting science so that it's realigned. And
Mm,
some people don't get that, and that's cool. Some people just like the science part. Some people like the more spiritual light aspect of the technology as a photophaeton system that stimulates and supports the death regeneration cycle within cell biology. So some people kind of so there's kind of all this knowledge that I have in different domains. I've connected them together because of the experience that I've had.
But it's also a very traditional way of doing things. And what's come to mind, and I haven't tried this before, but ayahuasca.
Yep.
There are other, various
Shamanic.
medications, which,
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of traditional. Well, it's not just seeing spirits or whatever you want to
No,
call it.
no,
There is a science and there's a process to this, and there's a reason it happens. It's not a damn party drug.
no, it's
It-
not. It's not a
and
party drug
everything.
at all, right? It's not easy doing your healing work when it's deep trauma from past
Mm,
experiences. So yeah, it really, I think people have to come to it with the right intention. And the
mm,
intention isn't to go out and party and take this
mm,
because they'll get nothing from it. They'll get nothing from it at all because their intention
yeah,
isn't to kind of
yeah.
really dig
And if
in.
they have the intention that things are just going to work, I'll take this and it's all good, then it's also the wrong intention because there is
Yeah,
still work
yeah. I think there
and
must
effort that needs to
be
be,
some
effort that has to
functionality in
happen.
the product. There'll be
So,
functionality in the product will give them some benefit. But if you're experiencing things and not letting it go and you're kind of re-traumatizing yourself, then like I said,
mm,
if there is that kind of intergenerational trauma that gets passed from one
mm,
generation to another, and that is really
mm,
underpinned by the timings of atomic physics in the unconscious part of the mind. And so I got to sense
mm,
that big time when I had my experience. I was 11 when mum died, and my daughter was 11 when I had my
mm,
release. So And it
Oh,
was
wow.
36 years. My mum was 36, and it was 36 years later that I was
Mm,
told by an auntie why she took her life. You know, a medical intervention, a Depo-Provera injection, which upset the kind of chemical imbalance within her mind due to high copper content.
mm,
And so there was this, all
mm,
that was hidden from me as a child. I know nothing about that, nothing of the reasons that underpinned
mm,
the kind of trajectory that she went on. And you know, I've seen trauma play out in my family and other members of my family, and how that relates to carrying
mm,
aspects of trauma within their own memory and how that's played out. So
mm,
yeah, it's not easy, it's not easy to kind of look at it and then to see how it operates and then to understand
mm,
how to release it and then to
mm.
kind of go, well, here are all the pieces of the puzzle. Here's a technology that allows you to do that, but it still is your journey to go and do. You can't walk
Mm,
away and think this is going to be a magic bullet, right? It's not. It's just a tool that allows you to release the harm that's been done. And then it's still up to you as to what you want to do with it. You still have free will and the right to walk the path that you choose. So,
yeah,
but technology really kind of it makes you sit up and take notice of what's going on internally.
yeah, yeah. Okay. I think that I've got enough. I won't repeat the science because I didn't remember half of it, but I've got enough of a grasp of
Yeah.
what you're saying. Uh, I'm now confident that when I go back to your webpage and try and make sense of it all, that a bit more will sink through.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm having some people try to help me translate, right? So, you know, if you think 18 years of research science bottled into technology that restores healing and well-being, a preventative regenerative medicine technology, that's really kind of what helps, I think, hopefully get a message across.
yeah, it does, but I mean, some people like myself aren't. I'm not. I'm illiterate when it comes to science and
Yep.
physics, and so I'm
Yep.
not my bag or area.
Yep.
But I've come to understand it from a slightly different angle, and
Yep.
we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
ultimately,
are just using different
memory,
words.
trauma,
Yep.
do your work.